See it.
It's on the consent agenda.
I got it with
Good evening. I'd like to call the Alton Board of Selectmen's meeting to order March 8th, 2021 at 6:02 p.m. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence. Mr. McDonald, seeing you with us tonight, can you say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I didn't mean anything, but I just wanted to hear you hadn't let us alone. Until further notice, to keep our members and staff safe, to comply with RSA 91-A, the state of emergency and governance orders, restrictions on public gatherings. The town of Alton has moved from in-person meetings to remote audio participation meetings. To remotely attend the meeting, audio only, visit our website, www.altonnh.gov, for telephone access and remote access instructions listed on the news and announcements on the home page, or telephone the Selectmen's office, 603-875-2113 or 603-875-0229 between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. for the dialing code and meeting ID for each Selectmen's meeting. So at this time, we would accept a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
I got a question for you first.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind. I see a plan here for Church Street, School Street, but not on the agenda.
It's going to be in the town administrator's report. Mr. Roberts will be joining us for that.
I thought it has to be on the agenda if we're gonna discuss it.
It just came in late this afternoon. So if you'd like to amend the agenda to approve Mr. Roberts talking about School Street, Church Street, that would be fine too.
I would amend the agenda to include the plan from KV Partner and Mr. Roberts explaining it to us.
Old business?
Old business, yes.
Aye. Motion made by Mr. McDonald to add to old business.
Second.
Preliminary design for School and Church Street from KV Partners, Mr. Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rochelle. Any discussion? Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Sorry, take that away from me, Town Administrator. And appointments, Justin Cooper, that has been canceled.
Oh.
The information came in late that the town assessor was not aware of, so he needed a week to look at it.
Okay.
What's that?
The Justin Cooper has been canceled for tonight.
Is it canceled for tonight or just canceled?
Canceled for the night.
Just for tonight.
Come back next week, could come back in 2 weeks, I don't know.
Okay.
If I have that right.
Yes, you do, yeah.
It's not tabled, it's canceled.
Postponed.
Postpone.
Postponed?
Yeah.
Postponed, okay.
Anything else? I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McDonald, approve the agenda as amended, second by Mr. Whitman. Any discussion? Full board, Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Agenda is approved. Town clerk and tax collector's office will be closed on Tuesday, March 9th for the town school elections, which will be held at St. Catherine Drexel Church, lower level, Hidden Springs Road, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Submission of public comments, question, concern. John Markland. Board members, I have watched your meetings and discussion relative to Bay Hill Road. I have a suggestion in which a similar situation occurred in neighboring town. In Guilford, they have a local road, cat path, that connects Route 11A to Route 11B, providing a shorter drive for people to connect either going towards the Weirs or wanting to go to Gunstock. This short residential road also saw an increase in traffic thanks to Google Maps. This road, like Bay Hill, had a steep incline with a slight bend at the lower end. Just as your fellow members described, vehicles going off the road in snowstorms, etc., Guilford was experiencing the same issue with vehicles constantly getting into accidents, going off the road into the ditch whenever it was hazardous. After much deliberation, the public hearings, the selectmen made the decision to make Cat Path a one-way street. Vehicles are allowed to enter Cat Path from the bottom and go up the hill and exit off the top. Similarly, if the board should consider the situation at Bay Hill, possibly making it a one-way street from going from the bay up to Route 28. Although it will cause disapproval probably among residents who live on the road, in the end, it did do the following: decrease the amount of traffic using the road, decrease the amount of accidents from people sliding down the hill, decrease the amount of accidents from people trying to turn onto Cat Path from Route 11A rear-end collision. I also noted when I traveled the Bay Hill Road the other day just to experience the grade, that when I approached the stop sign at the bottom of the hill to turn left, the line of sight was limited and very conscious effort was needed to make every decision to proceed. Thank you for the opportunity to address this with the board, and I thank you for the job you do. Warmest regards, John E. Markland, Stockbridge Corner Road. Okay, gentlemen, moving on to, if this letter could be sent down to Mr. Roberts and the chief, that would be greatly appreciated. Agree with that, gentlemen? Yeah. Moving on to new business, medical card recommendation. In your book, you have a recommendation from Mr. Roberts. First time I've seen this come forward to us. I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Roberts on this. I also think, though, besides the highway department, the water department should be there too, because anything over 10,000 pounds in the state of New Hampshire, you need a medical card for. In the private sector, if we need it, I feel all municipality operators of any municipality vehicle, whether it's fire truck, solid waste department vehicles, if they're over 10,000 pounds, they should be required to have a medical card doing it. One is the safety that's involved there. We do not know the health of our employees, and by having a medical card every 2 years, this would make the town aware of it. Two is, besides the safety issues, you've got some of these vehicles that are $500,000 and $700,000. I even think, I believe the fire department in the state of New Hampshire is exempt from this, but I still feel any operators of a vehicle over 10,000 pounds should be required to have a medical card.
Well, I think it protects the taxpayers who are buying the vehicles and stuff and our insurance to make sure that they're healthy enough to maintain.
See, right now, that's a state requirement. So if,
Or private. Or private.
Right.
yeah,
It's not, municipalities are exempt.
yeah, but if you want to continue, we'd have to, is that part of, employee handbook?
It has been a part of the employee policy for the highway department, plus the random drug testing also has been part of our personnel for highway department employees.
The medical card,
Medical card and drug testing.
just for the highway?
Yes.
And it is not for the water?
It should be for the water. I do not know if it is or not. Fire department has been exempt over the years because of state statute. And it's my understanding right now that the highway department could also be exempt from it, and this is why Mr. Roberts is sending this letter in.
So we'd have to make that part of,
Tonight, I would need a motion to have that approved, and I think where we're requiring it, the town should pay for those medical physicals, because the insurance won't. Normally, your health insurance will not pay for DOT physical. I'm 99% sure of that, because mine does not pay for mine. And they run about $110. I believe the town's been paying for them all along for the highway department. The fire department, on the other hand, they don't do one. But I think it's time that the town imposes anybody that drives a vehicle over 10,000 pounds, with the town's signature on it, should be required to take a medical.
So you're adding all the departments.
All departments.
For all departments. Anything over 10,000 pounds in any department.
And at this time, I'd like to bring in Mr. Roberts. Maybe he has more to add to this. I'm not sure. Is Mr. Roberts on the line?
Safer.
Mr. Roberts, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Do you have anything to add what I just said, or?
No, that pretty much covers it. I mean, we've been doing it for quite a while, and we do pay for them. And we've had a few instances that things have come up where people only can get a medical card for 1 year, and then they have to be done in the following year. And this just keeps, as it says in my letter, this just keeps, I think, the liability for the town down. God forbid anything would ever happen to somebody if we didn't know about it and something happened with a vehicle and another vehicle. So I think that's just a plus for us.
Ken, it says in your note to assist the drivers in paying for it. We're paying for the whole thing, aren't we?
Yes, we are, and we're actually doing it through urgent care now. Previously, we had it actually through our drug testing people. They could actually come right here with a doctor and do it, but he actually retired. So they suggested us to go through urgent care. So that's where we've been going. We've been scheduling it through urgent care.
Yeah, I think the town should pay for it.
Yeah, I think preventative wise, I think it's worth it because all we need is one accident and that will cost a lot more than what it be for medical cards.
It's definitely worth it. And all departments at any vehicle over 10,000 pounds.
Thank you, Ken, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I would like to have a motion. This is required for any vehicle, though, in the town. Anybody that's gonna drive a vehicle in town over 10,000 pounds required a medical card. Whether it's fire department, police department.
All departments.
All departments.
Because when you hook, the police department, when they get their pickup truck, with that trailer hooked on is over 10,000 pounds, they should be required to have one too. Anybody that's gonna drive that vehicle. But at least that's my feeling, but tonight, if you agree with that, then I need a motion on that, and that we set it that no later than, say, June, that everyone has to have the medical cards in place. The ones at the highway department have to have theirs done, the ones that are a year have to be done before that year is up. It's kind of like mine. Mine has to be done before April 3rd for my business, so I have to get it done between now and April 3rd, or I can't drive my trucks anymore, especially with the trailer. But I think if we make it out till June, or if you want to say May 1st, that gives the fire department time to get their operators
I think,
and appointments done.
I think 90 days ain't a lot of time. I mean, I think that's, June's 90 days, so.
You agree with something like that, town administrator?
I do, and if certain departments run into problems, I'll bring it back to the board for perhaps a delayed date or something, but I think it's a step in the right
You're
direction.
thinking of beginning in May or June?
June gives them 90 days. I mean, with
90 days,
everything
yeah.
that's going on, it's not easy to get in. That's the only reason I'm saying at least 90 days.
Bob?
I just had one concern. I agree with the concept, but I think it should read, well, if you get like in your water department, all those, well, there's only 2 employees, but if some departments, they all won't drive, like in your highway department, you might have guys that only drive a pickup.
But actually, the ones that are down there, most of them have to have a CDL.
CDL.
CDLB.
I say all employees that are in a department that drive truck should have, that way they can drive any truck there is, should have this test. All the employees that drive truck.
Well, that's what I.
Any one of them over 10,000 pounds?
Over 10,000 pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. If they don't drive over a 10,000 pound truck, this has happened in a highway department that I work in. And of course, we get short of help. So they throw him in the truck. He's a truck driver. You know, he can drive. And they put him in a truck, not.
Well, that's
That's why each department should have at least one driver that has the CDL.
if they don't have the medical card, they can't get in the trucks.
No, they all have to have it. Like in our highway department, even the mechanics had to have a CDL and a medical card. They all had to have it, whether they drove truck or not. During a bad snowstorm, you might grab a mechanic and tell them to get in the truck.
Yeah, but they're licensed to do it. That's why we
Oh,
do it down there.
they are. Yeah, but I want to make sure they all will be licensed here.
Anybody that works in the highway department now has a CDLB at least.
How about the fire? No.
The fire, I have no idea.
They don't.
They're not required to,
Right.
but
They're not
the
required.
motion that anybody that's gonna operate equipment that's over 10,000 pounds,
We'll have the medical.
will have
We'll
medical.
have the medical.
If they have the pickup truck and hook a trailer to it, that's primarily putting them over 10,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
So, all I'm saying is the secretary at the highway department should not have to get a medical card, even though she could drive a pickup truck.
Right. But she's not pulling the excavator behind.
No, or a dump trailer or the one-ton truck. That's why, I'm just saying, my motion would be anybody driving Any vehicles, if the town
That's-
signature is rated over gross vehicle weight of 10,000 pounds, will have to be required to have a medical card.
That way, yeah.
That way, that doesn't mean every single person has to have it.
So was that a
Only the
motion?
What are
person,
you gonna do when the person
I'll
doesn't
second.
have it, and he gets it in?
then they don't drive it.
No, so that's.
They don't drive it, they're not
All
allowed
right.
to.
That kind of umbrellas,
And they're not, probably not getting paid.
Yeah, and we have the new position, that will be developing with the Public Works Director, who will pull somebody from one department to another department. So he will be in charge of making sure they all get those cards, have their physicals, just for those instances when they have to hop departments.
yeah, well, I think the way Ruben's worded it, it puts an umbrella over it, so if you do put a trailer on, or you're going over that 10,000, you're gonna have to have that card, which I think is good.
So every employee should have the card, in my opinion, that, like, works in the department with equipment over 10,000
Or has the potential to,
to drive it. I mean, the
But if
secretary,
they don't have a medical card, they can't drive it. Both, simple as that.
Right.
We had an employee recently who had an accident on the job, you may remember, fairly recently, and was like parked outside the town hall, not quite sure, knowing where they were. And that was under 10,000 pounds probably, but maybe there's.
The personal car was under 10,000.
Personal car.
But the vehicle was not, the vehicle.
Oh, was that person in their own car?
Yes.
The accident happened, the loader slid down the road and crashed into the car. Sideswiped the car, didn't crash in, sideswiped the
Okay.
car.
Yeah.
The individuals that owned the car was inside town hall working.
Oh, okay.
What a nice surprise.
Do I have a motion to that effect, or?
Yeah, you made the motion, I seconded it.
Motion made by Reuben Whitworth that all town vehicles in the town of Walton over 10,000 pounds will require all drivers to have a medical card. Second by Mr. McDonald. Discussion. We'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitworth?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
oh,
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in affirmative, 4 for, 1 against. Moving on to number 2, IT equipment, CRF expenditure request. 2021 Public Works Director Technology Preparation. Josh, if you'd like to speak to this.
So I'm looking or asking that we take a look at a new technology solution for the new Public Works Director. Currently, the piece of technology that is in place, I do not believe that it's an appropriate solution for him. I don't think that it's something that would fit the needs and his particular job role accurately. The desktop computer that's currently for the highway manager is a fixed system. It is not mobile. So this is basically in an effort to provide the Public Works Director with a mobile system, something that's dual purpose, something that he can use as a desktop and a laptop if he ever does need to leave the office. And my plan is to take the old desktop, which is not so old, and repurpose it somewhere else in town. That way, the investment that we have tied up in that system, we still get some sort of a return on the investment. So I'm asking that we spend $1935.63 out of the capital reserve fund for that purpose.
So it's not sure, it's be for this position or any position of that nature right there to bring it more in line to what the job requires.
Yes, so the capital reserve fund, I put this together with this in mind, to provide appropriate solutions for those who may find themselves out in the field at times. So that they have a computer system with them to make their job easier, so Say, for example, so that they're not going back to the office with paper logs, paper records, and backfilling all that information in when they could have done that out on the road, and therefore saving time.
Gentlemen, questions for Josh?
Straightforward.
Mr. Holt?
I'm looking at the breakdown here. On, the equipment, I imagine.
Yes.
There, and then I saw something over here, special lease pricing may be available. Now, if we spend this figure, one-time cost,
Yep. Until, let's say, the technology is outdated and we have to replace it, but we're talking years and years.
there's no monthly payments we have to pay in this or anything.
We would own it outright.
Okay.
This is a Dell.
My experience with these tablets has been excellent. We've actually purchased a few of them already. Not out of capital reserve. And they work excellent.
We have them here?
Yes, we have a couple of them deployed throughout county.
What departments, Josh?
Fire departments.
And they've had good luck with them?
Yeah, I mean, we've had them for a generally speaking, short period of time, but they work great. And I find that the dockable solution seems to be more efficient and provide the employee with more flexibility. Especially, with the pandemic and everything, if they ever have to find themselves in a work from home scenario, they can just take their desktop computer, undock it, bring it home and work as if they're here.
That makes sense.
So even, may I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So even though the amount is below the threshold, so he could approve the dollar amount, you are the agents to expend out of that fund, which is why he's brought it to you for that.
And there's not enough money in your budget to pay for it without going over line items this year, Josh?
I didn't budget for this specifically, and knowing the budget, let's say if that budget gets approved, I know that I would not be able to cover this expense as well as my other expenses for the year.
Gentlemen, how say you?
I'll make a motion to approve the laptop for the Public Works Director to the tune of $1,935.63.
I'll second.
Motion is made to approve $1,935.63. I'm going to say the IT department. This is request coming from the IT department.
Yeah.
The IT department. It'll be withdrawn from the capital reserve, IT capital reserve fund, second by Paul Rochelle. Discussion. I'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Thank you, Josh. Moving on to old business, Alton Housing for the Elderly financials. Gentlemen, if you remember, when we did in lieu of taxes, it was asked that the financials be given to the Board of Selectmen. You have them there. I don't know if anybody has any comments or concerns on them. There's a lot of papers there and a lot of financials there.
Mm-hmm.
Any discussions or concerns, or would you like to bring up another time after you have more time to review it? You only had it since last Thursday, Friday.
Well, I've looked through it, and it's the housing seems to be for the elderly and people that are handicapped.
Yeah.
I know at least one instance where there was a person living there that was neither. In fact, they weren't even a citizen of our country. And when they went home to Newfoundland to visit family, they weren't allowed back in. So I hope they're very careful about who they allow rental there. You know.
Anybody have anything else? If not, I'm gonna move on to Bay Hill signage and discussion. We have Mr. Roberts and the, Mr. Chief Heath on the phone. If you remember last week, we brought up the sign, issue of the sign, we had discussions on it, good discussion on it. Don't know what the board has decided as their individual opinions, what they'd like to see done. So, Mr. Rochelle.
I did take the liberty this weekend of speaking with several residents on Bay Hill and off of Bay Hill, to discuss what their input would be on Bay Hill signage or what to do. And the general consensus was actually, close no through traffic wasn't a bad idea. Providing, we still put a temporary sign in the winter, suggesting that the hill is dangerous during winter months. At least saying between October 30th to April 15th, and that period of time, that there should still be some sort of a caution, temporary sign. Now, that being said, I think everyone feels the same way. As many signs as we put, we already have quite a few signs. And I'm hoping that the chief and Mr. Roberts both went up Bay Hill and actually looked at the signs we already have. The 6-ton limit sign, the 20% slope sign, the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, the no trucks, box trucks with the circle around with the red line through it sign, the temporary 6-ton limit sign. They're on both ends.
Permanent.
And that one's permanent. We have a temporary and a permanent. So we don't need the permanent one. The temporary one, we already have a permanent one. Yeah. So that being said, if we were to do a closed, no through traffic, one of those signs has to be removed, to put this on. And the point is, I'm trying to make is, as many signs as we've had there for years, it's not working. We need enforcement. I've asked before if we'd have either the radar on the hill, and I know that's a problem. I've talked to a few people. Jewett Farm Road is available to put the radar on the side, or a police officer once or twice a week. This is the consensus of the people on the road. Wouldn't hurt to have someone once, twice a week. You would be nailing everybody that goes down and up that hill going over 25 miles an hour. You'd be busy all day long. So as many signs as we put, it's not going to work unless we have enforcement, and under no circumstances anybody interested in a one-way. That goes right out the window. Then definitely not interested in that. Thank you, though, to Mr. Markland for the suggestion, but that would be a no-no. So yes, in my opinion, the close no through traffic on both ends. Remove the circle sign with the red line through it, and they all should be on the right-hand side. Some of them are on the left, which I think is illegal. I think they're all supposed to be on the right. So that's my input, and the town would be in favor of that sign as long as we have enforcement.
Before I ask the two gentlemen to come in, anybody else have anything to say? Just the whole.
Yes, I also have property. I will be living there. I have talked to two neighbors, basically, same concerns Paul's giving you tonight. Bay Hill Road looks like a sign pincushion. There's more signs out there, and they're all advisory because nobody's doing anything about it. So we either have to decide if we want to keep advisory signs, or if we want to put some legal signs up that can be that will be enforced. And if you go with the closed, no through traffic, both persons I talked to, I showed them a picture of the sign. They said, if you put that up, and that will, we can alleviate all the other signs, except for the speed limit sign, basically.
And
No through traffic, that puts the end to it. If it's enforced, it has to be enforced. And if it's not, it's advisory signs, we already got them there, and they're not working. They're not working at all, believe me. And those truck signs are there, which I said they were there at the last meeting, but I was told they're not. They're the state. They're not the state. They're on Bay Hill Road, both ends.
The state has one, but we have some on Bay Hill.
Yeah, the state has one.
The state has one, but Bay Hill has their own.
But Bay Hill's got their own, and that's not being enforced. I don't know if it can be, but the truck traffic's just crazy. And it's not deliveries, believe me. But I say we go with that closed, no through traffic.
One at a time. Virgil?
You're complaining about the accidents or the too much traffic?
Everything.
Because if it's too much traffic, hell, you might as well put them on every road.
No.
No, it's not just that. It's, at first, most of it was the speed coming through and going over 25 miles an hour. The last few years, well, it's always been, I've been there 20 years on Bay Hill Road. And through the years, it's been progressively getting worse and worse in the winter as far as accidents coming down the hill. I know the chief supplied us with documentation on accidents. Those are recorded, called accidents. Those are not showing the ones that just people go off the road, we dig them out, pull them out, and they're on their way, which happens almost every week during a snowstorm. And then the speed limit has been getting, the speed has been getting worse and worse and worse through the years. And we've noticed when we ask a lot of people when they do have an accident, GPS has been sending them down the road. So this is another problem. Instead of sending them down to the traffic circle and down around, or down to Old Wolf or a road to downtown, they're sending them down Bay Hill Road, or up Bay Hill Road. A lot of them have never even used the road before, and then once you're committed, and if there's snow on the hill, there's no stopping.
You get over the lip, you're done.
Right.
Yeah. Mr. Whitman?
So with the closed no-through traffic sign, is a seasonal sign necessary? Are you thinking a sign that says, can be slippery or something like that in the wintertime, or?
I'm thinking the closed no-through traffic is gonna help. It will, as long as we get rid of some of the other signs.
Right.
It's gonna help, but I don't think it's gonna be enough in the winter. People are still gonna use the hill because of the GPS. I know the chief was talking about conditioning. Well, people do get conditioned. They ignore it. Once you see a sign there for 2 or 3 years, after a while, it becomes out of sight, out of mind. They just ignore it if you use the road all the time. So it's not the people that know the road, it's the people that don't know the road. So I think if somebody is coming through, they may see the sign, but if it has a temporary sign in the winter with it, I think will help.
And Bob, you live on the road too. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's an advisory sign.
It's an advisory.
And I don't think it's that big a deal, but compared to the road closed sign. Now, see, that road is a dangerous road. That road would never be built today with the way it's set up.
I won't use it.
And I mean, and I'm not, that's just the way it is. That's the real world we live in. And like Mr. Markland said, they had a road with a similar situation. They addressed it a little different, but they addressed it. Now, that's a one-way. I think I'd have a hard time selling that one. But they addressed it, and evidently it did some good. But that Bay Hill Road is definitely a problem, and it's something that should be addressed, one way or the other.
Mr. Markland did have a good point as far as the bottom of Bay Hill Road. When you're coming down, when you get to the end, just before you get to 28A, there's quite the curve with the guardrail.
It's not a T.
It's so curved, so much so, that it is difficult to look to the right and see traffic coming around the corner, from 28A heading towards town. You had, because it turns you into, you can't take a right-hand turn. You can only go to the left. I've always thought that that should have been wider at the bottom, so you could pull your car a little bit straighter, so you could see both ways and to pull out. But that's another issue.
Yeah, the way the land is.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, you thought we might get some backlash from taxpayers with a sign like that, am I correct?
You get one for me, because I won't stop going up it. Because I feel I should have a right to go up it.
Yeah, but you said you shouldn't have the right in the winter. You said it should be closed in the winter.
Not that a right in the winter. I never said I shouldn't go up there in the wintertime, because I used to plow driveways up there and down and forth for over 15 years. I used to drive up in the snowstorm and drive down in the snowstorm, okay?
At the last meeting, you did say that.
All I said was, the sign should be posted from October 30th till April 2nd. I said April 2nd, I'll go April 15th. The conditions might enhance your driving or hazardous conditions exist. I don't think any town road should be stopped to any vehicle going up or down. Except for when it comes to deterioration on our roads, such as big trucks and stuff like that. I wholeheartedly agree with, because our roads are not built for big trucks. We don't build them like the state does. I understand the neighbor's feeling. I understand Google. 15 years ago, I didn't have Google telling me to go up there. I just knew it. But someone that has lived here 56 years, not just moved into town in the last 5 years or 6 years. If I want to go up that road and go across 28 up to the other side, I should have the right to be able to do it if I'm within the limits of the 6 ton. It also depends on people's common sense, which my daughters used to tell me, my common sense, it might not be the same as somebody else's common sense. Just because there's snow on the road and there's ice on the road, tell some people, well, can I just go faster? I don't think this is going to solve the issue unless you put a police officer there every day. I think an officer should go up there maybe once a week or something like that during the heavy commute times. 3 in the afternoon.
That'll help enforcement.
And have some of the speeders that are abusing it or getting on it when they get up the hill, when they first turn on it, just to go to their house. So that, you're not gonna stop it, as Paul was saying, down at the bottom hill. Years ago, we tried to get that to go both ways at the bottom. It was split. We couldn't get the grade.
That makes sense.
Two is you have to remember, this road was put in, I can't tell you the date it was put in, but it was state when it was just a country road. People don't. Unfortunately, we're all impatient now in our lives. We want to take the shortest means getting there. And Google is, I won't say they're blamed for it, but they give everyone the shortest path.
Oh, of course they will.
And when it comes to trucks, they don't tell you that it's off limits to trucks because they don't know enough to put that on their ads. There is no perfect solution, I feel. All we can do is try to educate.
Well, in that case, then don't change any signage and have more enforcement.
I think the more they start to see the cops there, the more they're gonna think they're there all the time.
I did ask this last year.
I know.
I asked this last year, and I asked it also for 28A at the crosswalk where the town beach is. I asked it last year. We see a lot of activity of police officers in the bay, Route 11 by the Mount Major parking lot. We see a lot in the traffic circle, and we see a lot on 28A, which are all state roads. We should be enforcing in our police officers on our own roads that we own.
Is the chief on with us?
The chief and the road agent's on. If you gentlemen have any more to say, take it. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to them.
I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Mr. Roberts or Chief Heath, either one of you want to go first, that'd be great.
I think chief would be good.
Ryan, are you there?
Pretty good his recommendation.
What?
We already got his recommendation.
It's on mute.
Hello?
Hi,
Hello?
Chief, how are you? Yes, sir.
Good, how are you doing? Sorry about
Good.
that.
I'm sure you've heard the discussion,
Sure.
so if you could put your safety input into this would be great.
Okay, first thing I'd like to address is I think we need to contact the state to get clarification on the signage, because I called the road agent after I went up and checked Bay Hill. And Paul had mentioned that there are signs on the on the left-hand side of the road. Those signs on the other side of the guardrail, I believe, are all state signs. Ken said he has not placed any no trucking signs on Bay Hill Road, and there's no authorization to enforce those. So that's something we need clarification.
Okay.
But if Ken's saying he didn't put them there, they're not town signs. So that's one thing we'll clarify with the signage. The other thing I'd like to clarify is we did get several requests about Bay Hill Road and 28A last year, and I have a lot of documentation about the enforcement that we did on those roads in that area. We've done the best we can to place the radar trailer. Bay Hill Road is not conducive to getting off the side of the road with the ditch lines. So it does make some of our preventive measures that we utilize in other areas of town hard and difficult to utilize, unless we leave a radar trailer inside the travel portion of the road, which that can be dangerous in itself. But I do agree with the fact that enforcement is the key. Enforcement is the key to everything. We have enforcement issues on a lot of different roads, and we utilize our directed patrols to try to curb that. And we will continue to do that. And I'm happy to set those directed patrols and to get the officers out there and try to make a difference. We'll do the best that we can. But I do have a feeling with this signage thing, there's a misconception here as to what's going on with the signage. Because signs usually aren't on the right, on the left side of the road when you're coming up the hill there. All those signs that I saw there, and Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when we discussed, he didn't place any of those signs up there. And Ken's actually been in town longer than I have. But between the two of us, we have almost 25 years here in this town. So I do think we need to clarify that and make sure that the board understands what is enforceable and what isn't enforceable on that area.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I went up and looked at it as well. I'm not sure where the box truck sign came from. It's nothing I've ever purchased, I've ever installed. Not saying that somebody didn't put it there, but it wasn't done by this highway department.
That's one of the
So I'm not sure where that, I'm just not sure where that came from. Now, the 20% grade signs and the 6-ton load limit signs were left up after we pulled all the other ones down. And I think in the last meeting when we discussed Stockbridge Corner Road and working with New Durham about putting up 6-ton load limit signs, I tried to bring up at that time whether or not we were going to readopt the other roads. I just never took them down because, again, 20% grade, tractor and trailers and stuff like that, trying to use it, not a good thing. I just never took them down. I mean, I admit it, I didn't take them down. I think it needs to be a 6-ton load limit. I think we shouldn't have big trucks running up and down it. We shouldn't have tractor and trailers on it. Now, getting back to the signs you're discussing about no through traffic or anything, I mean, you're talking about temporary signs and I don't know, maybe it's not temporary signs so much as putting a permanent signpost in and changing signs out at certain times of the year. Danger when snow covered. I don't know how enforceable that is. It's not. It's advisory. It's not enforceable.
It's an advisory.
Tell somebody. Right. So I'm not sure, and I'd have to rely on the chief to tell me what's legal and what's not legal. What he can enforce and what he can't. So in either case, I understand.
An advisory.
Well, I think he's right. Was just
You want me to respond to that now, Ken?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, advisory signs, they have a place. They're not enforceable, meaning under the fine schedule, but they are enforceable if somebody uses gross negligence and an accident resulting, something along those lines. But that's not preventative in nature. That's sort of after the fact. And the same thing I will mention with no through traffic. That is an enforceable sign. But as you can imagine, that's a difficult one for us to prove in court as long as if we're stationary, because we have to be able to see that the truck or the vehicle entered one side of the road and went to the other side and made no reasonable stop at a resident's home in the area. Because even if they don't reside on that road, they still have a right to travel on it if they're going to visit a family member or a friend. So there's a lot of proof that goes along with that sort of signage. But, it's really the same thing's going to be, no matter what signage we put in there. It's not going to be like a prima facie violation like speed is. You're either going over the speed limit or you're going under it. And we proved that through our radar. If you have a inclement weather sign or a caution sign, those are advisory. Or if you say no through traffic from this month to that month, again, we have to be able to show that they went from one end to the other. We do our best with enforcement practices. I just want to put out there the difficulties that are involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
Would no through trucks be a compromise?
That's there now.
Oh, it is?
That is what we have.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's a very good comment.
I think you'll find, folks, that no through trucking that you're referring to is a state sign. And that's the
Right,
problem.
we didn't know, to be perfectly honest with you, Chief, I had no idea that was a state sign. I was just stating the fact last meeting that there was a no through trucking sign with a red circle around it, that some of you didn't remember was there. And there's one.
No, absolutely. And it was misleading as well to me. That's why I went up and looked at it, because I had no idea what you were talking about. So I had to look into it myself as well.
Yeah, there's quite a few signs.
That's an enforceable sign, isn't it?
For what?
If it's a state sign, well, it's only enforceable on the road that it's meant for. So if it's a state sign for 28, which is what it looks like, because if we put local signage up on our roads, we have to have some sort of mechanism like an ordinance that would enforce it. And a good point to that is that 6-ton load limit sign that was left up is not enforceable anymore. Because after the public hearing that was had a while ago, the board decided to lift all weight limits on residential roads. Regardless of whether that signage was left up or not, the mechanism to enforce that has been taken away with the ordinance. So that has to be put back into place, even if it's just for Bay Hill Road.
Mm-hmm.
Chief,
So
I have a
that's,
question.
sure.
Can you put a sign up, no commercial through traffic? That eliminates all your 6-ton. That also eliminates something, say, as Granite State did 2 weeks ago, coming down with a van that was leaded. That's a commercial vehicle. It also probably stopped a lot of your contractors that are coming out of Laconia going to Wolfville to work every day because they're leaded vehicles, because once the vehicle's leaded, it becomes a commercial vehicle. That might cut down on, say, 25% of the traffic, maybe? Would that be enforceable?
Sure. I mean, we can enforce it. Some of those examples that you gave might not be, we wouldn't be able to interpret that just by the vehicle driving by us, like a regular pickup truck with some lumber on the ladder rack, as to discern whether that's commercial or if that's a resident. A lot of that would come out of a traffic stop, meaning we stop for the speed or a traffic violation, and upon further research, we determine that it's, in that sense, it's a commercial vehicle.
Well, let me ask you this. If all of a sudden they're going down the hill and they crash, like they did a couple of weeks ago, your officers show up to the scene unless they're a good Samaritan pulls them out of the ditch. You sit there and say, can I ask what you're doing here coming down this road? And they say, well, Google sent me down that road. And they say, well, didn't you see the sign at the end of the road? No through commercial traffic. At that point, you could do a citation, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. It's secondary to, we may not be able to determine it just by looking at the vehicle as it passes by, but subsequent to a legitimate stop with articulable suspicion, we can follow up further with what they call cursory questioning. And that cursory questioning will, allow us to ascertain a little bit further as to what they're doing on the road and the nature of their travel.
Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr.
The through trucking is an issue, but the other issue is the automobile. Now, I pulled two out this winter, and they weren't trucks, they were automobiles. Two women driving. They get on the road, slippery. It's not trucks. This is not the issue.
Usually it's cars.
And I mean, I was born and brought up to respect women, and when they go off the road, I can take care of them. I can pull them out maybe.
Well,
Anyways, you drivers, you pull off the road, whether women or men, you pull them off the road.
Well, that's this year. And
every year.
And, of course, I got a garage. I've been there 5 years. I haven't lived like this, and that doesn't make any difference if any use the road, whether you lived here all your life.
I'm tired of people moving in 2 years and want to change the whole issue of the town.
I don't want to.
Basically, no, that's basically what you say. You want the limit to local traffic.
Change.
How long do you live here?
I've been there.
I know.
And we've been, between the two of us, over 30 years.
No.
All I'm saying is, and we have multiple problems on Bay Hill. We have multiple problems. And all we're asking, is the residents are saying, we're concerned about the people coming down the hill.
I understand.
That's all. We know how to handle the hill. It's the people coming down the hill, we keep pulling out of snowbanks. They don't, the police aren't called on every single one of these cases. We're pulling them out. We feel for the people coming down the hill. When we as residents ask, why'd you use the hill? Because of my GPS. This is what's happening. So we have that issue. We have the issue of the trucks coming down. And we're just trying to say that the people on that road are concerned with the speed, the heavy trucks, and the snow. Whether the signage is working or not, we're just asking to see if something can be done to make it better.
And I don't have a problem with that, Paul. I really don't.
It doesn't matter if you've been here 50 years, 60 years, 70 years.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
But also look at someone just moves and on that hill, not being there, all of a sudden wants to change it to just local, just no through traffic.
I don't necessarily want to change it to just
And I'm not pointing
local.
at you.
Okay.
Well, maybe I was you, because you just moved up.
Damn right you were pointing.
Damn right I was. But also, you also want to get on the accelerator when you go up that hill. You do it in front of my store, too.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
To bring that up with the chief. You going to be chief of police now?
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Can I make two suggestions?
Sure.
Two are basically, let's go, why don't we try this? Why don't we say, no commercial vehicles on the road? There's an enforcement sign that goes year-round. And why don't we get a secondary sign? We'll put the post in, not put the signs up until, like you suggested before, maybe October, beginning of October, and carry it through the end of March. And say, danger when snow covered.
Yes.
That sounds
And
good.
just,
That's what we've been saying
Well,
right
let's-
along.
let's try that, and they can go, and Chief, you can correct me, they can go left and right at the top, and at the bottom, they have to go on the left, because that's a ledge line on the right. That's the reason there's no signs on the right side of that roadway. You know, and so they do go behind the guardrail.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion, is let's do something for now, and then see how that works out.
And we can definitely, if I can add to that, we definitely can step up enforcement as well to see if we can curb the issue as well, you know, to help curb it.
Yeah.
But I would say my recommendation, just to go along with what Ken is saying, instead of saying danger when snow covered, I would say danger, or I would say danger in inclement weather, instead of just saying snow covered. Then that way it covers ice.
Yeah.
It covers heavy rain too, because I've had some hydroplaning issues on that road as well.
What I said last week was very similar, except for simply saying road closed during snowstorms.
Hey, gentlemen, what's your pleasure? I'd like to say one more thing.
Excuse me. What else, Chief?
I was just going to say, and I have no problem with the signage about being in danger in the snow. My only concern is temporary signage, where somebody has to physically put it up before the storm or in the middle of the storm. Because if it's in the middle of the night, you're relying on either highway or police to get out there and put it up. But we have so many other tasks when a severe storm hits, that my fear would be is that it would take second fiddle to a car accident or highway having to get to a route to sand an area or plow a danger area. It just may not happen as timely as we'd hope every time. that would be my concern. That's why I was pushing for a permanent signage, whether or not it's during a certain duration or during storms or whatnot, but that it's always there.
We could put a toll gate at the top, bottom, that charging people.
Yeah.
Go around there.
That would be better.
I just have one more statement. I brought this up I have no problem with Bay Hill Road personally. I can drive up and down it. I have no problem. But I had two people up there that do have a serious problem. One of them, they end up in his front yard. It's just before Paul's Road. And that's on the corner of Jewett Road.
Across the street
Now,
from my property.
this could end up being a serious problem someday. Somebody could get killed out there. But I can handle this road personally. So I'm just listening to my constituents out here, taxpayers.
The people who live on Jewett Farm Road, Bay Hill Road, Happy Hollow, all know how to handle Bay Hill. They either do something before the storm or after, or know how to handle it. I've gone up and down it because I've done a lot of plowing on Bay Hill Road for many years. That's why I have my plow truck. But people that we're concerned about coming down a hill that don't know the road, that's as simple as that. And to possibly slow it down a little bit, and to possibly not have somebody flip over in a truck again, or end up on the rocks at the end of Jewett Farm Road onto one of the properties and go into the trees. If they're coming down fast enough, that could be a serious accident.
We'll say that, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt, but that issue with that property at the corner of Jewett Farm, I will say that occurred early on in my career. We had a drunk driver who drove through the individual's swing set one night during bike week. I handled that accident myself, and that's why the rocks got put there. But just to reiterate, I am very aware of that dangerous area right there at the corner, because if somebody's not paying attention or loses control, they do end up in that individual's front lawn. Well, now they'll end up into those rocks.
That's right where I've pulled a lot of people out and shoveled them out. Right.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
The gentleman before you tonight, you had a couple of recommendations. One is post signage down at bottom Bay Hill Road, left-hand turn only, or no right turn. That would be one accomplishment. The other one is that no commercial through.
Yeah, now.
We have that. No right turn.
Well, put in a little bit broader letters because not everyone's seeing it, okay? And the other one is no commercial through traffic. Would be a sign that would need to be posted, and that would have to be an ordinance set up, sign posted, which has to be voted on by the Board of Selectmen.
I think what Ken was saying, and I'm listening to it from every angle here, and who we're supposed to be helping and who doesn't need help. And the last suggestion from Ken was no through commercial traffic and warning signs like 6 months of the year, road could be slippery or something to that effect. And I agree with Bob that the people who live there, they know how to handle the road.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, as far as the seasonal one, will be left up year round, considering the winter danger, we need to have that brought back to us by the road agent or the police chief, how that should be worded before we approve.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the way
Yeah.
So what's the motion again?
So I'm looking for a motion about the no commercial through traffic.
That's
Need a motion
taken out.
for a sign to be made and money spent on it and be put up on both ends.
What's the sign that's there now? What's that mean?
It doesn't say no commercial trucking. It shows a truck.
That's the logo. Okay.
Yeah. It's what it does now is it shows a truck at 20%.
And it doesn't say, well, wait, this would be any commercial
says-
vehicle, such as the Granite State Van that went down the other day, that's considered a commercial vehicle going through from Wolf Road headed towards Laconia.
Okay, I'll make a motion for a no commercial through traffic.
No, I'm talking about the red one.
Yeah.
Motion has
It's
been
on the
made
opposite side.
Yeah.
by
That's
Quincy
that
Whitman for a sign to be put at both ends of Bay Hill Road saying
No
no
truck.
commercial
No truck.
through traffic. Second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion?
Well, again, I'm just gonna bring this out.
Those signs are there.
See this sign right here? Pass that around. That is a no-through trucking sign that's in question by the chief, who put it there.
Now, wait a minute,
It already has it.
through trucking and no commercial traffic is two different things. There's usually no trucking, when you see that sign with a box truck on it, that usually means anything 6 tons or 8 tons or over. That's the way most truck drivers look at it. But a guy in a van delivering medical supplies from, say, Laconia to Wolfville to Laconia, or Granite State and Last in a small van, isn't gonna look at that and say, I don't belong in this road. So if you label it no commercial through traffic, and there's commercial lettering on the vehicle, that's a commercial vehicle. So I'm trying to cover all those bases of that nature.
Commercial vehicle has to have commercial plates.
No,
But how are you gonna determine a commercial vehicle?
a commercial vehicle does not have to have commercial plates,
What's it gotta have?
just regular license plates.
Okay, how are they gonna know it's not?
Normally, most
That'll mean my business truck will have to be parked down the bottom of the hill then, because I have my name on it.
No, because you're going home, you're not going through traffic. I said through traffic, from one end to the other.
Right. So,
Commercial vehicles normally have letters on them, Bob, because that's how the DOT down here at the traffic circle gets most of us. We don't have commercial plates,
all right.
our names on it.
Okay, so any vehicle with a name on the door can't get on it, but one without a name on the door can get down there.
Or through traffic, yes.
Come on, Ruben. Okay, I'm voting against the motion, so. It's not accomplishing a damn thing.
I recommend the board follow through with the motion. I like Ken's idea. Give it a year, tweak it if necessary, revisit it.
That's what I've been.
Year.
Nobody's listening.
No.
Nobody's listening. I've been saying this for 3 weeks, and now we're saying it's all right for his idea and this idea. We've been saying this, I started saying it last year. Temporary signage or,
But there's a motion on the table now to do it, and I think you should just move forward with that and evaluate for 12 months and tweak it as necessary.
Actually, the motion didn't include the temporary signage, and I thought that was part of what Ken was saying, I thought.
what I've been saying for a year.
That's how I meant my motion to be.
There's a motion on
I'll
the
make a
floor.
motion to allow Kenny to fix it.
And include the seasonal.
I withdraw my motion. Somebody make a motion how they want it seen. Let's go that way. Let's move on.
Let's move on. I know, I'm sorry to drag this out.
No, it's not dragging out, but evidently the motion I'm trying to put forward there is not covering what everyone's looking for. So I'm gonna revoke my motion, remove my motion, and have somebody put a motion on there how they want it seen done so we can move on with this.
I'd like to just give Kenny the permission to put up the signs, let's see if it works, and let him, if he's gotta change them, let him change them.
Well, the motion has to come from the board to put a stipulation on the code.
Well, I made a motion, I guess I better pull it back. So, my motion just said about the no commercial, you know,
Through traffic.
All right, Paul.
and that's not including everything what Ken's suggestion was. And I also agree with kind of like everybody, we don't know what's gonna work here. We really don't know what's gonna work, but maybe we need to try some stuff, and if it doesn't work, we try something else.
One of the things I just wanted to bring up, the chief said it himself, we don't know who put the sign on the left-hand side that has the no-through trucking circle on there now. So if we do a no-through trucking temporary sign, then that one has to be removed, or ask the state to remove it. And that way there, we don't have a violation of something that's on the road by the state that shouldn't be there. So that needs to be investigated before we do any signage. Am I correct on that?
Is that state right away, or is that on town right away?
That's a town
It's a
road.
town.
If
Town.
Is what
if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Yeah, all signage, 6-ton load limits, everything. If you put no commercial vehicle, all the other signs, with the exception of the 20% grade, I think you take them all down. 6-ton load limits, everything. More signage, more confusion. Let's make it simple and see if it works. And if it doesn't,
Yep.
let's do something different.
You agree
If
with
the
that?
state's missing a sign, he can come and find me.
What is more enforcement. And that has to be also, suggested on the motion.
Mr. Whitman, do you want to leave your motion as is?
We've had more conversations. I did want to withdraw the original motion. And And I was ready to propose precisely what Ken said, but now I'm not so sure because the conversation went on. I don't live on the road. It's, you know, to me, we kind of like have to listen to the two residents that live on the road. We also need to to learn what is enforceable from the chief. The chief has said that he probably should have to check with the state on a couple of these things. So, winter is almost over.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need the chief to check with the state first and then, revisit this. That's a suggestion.
That's kind of in a way what I'm saying, is if the chief could look into the signs that are put up that could be state signs, and have those removed, and then so we can decide on whether or not how we want to put signage, proper signage, and temporary signage in the winter, but see what works. I don't know the proper answer.
So I have two saying, want to hold off on a sign now, have the chief and the road agent look into the signs, find out if they're the state signs or our signs.
Well, that was brought up tonight, so I think that needs to be done.
Do you say that, how say you, Virgil?
I say let Kenny go up, remove them, and put signage up and see if it works.
Mr. Holt?
What's that? What's that?
Let him,
They're recommended signage.
wherever he recommended, to put it up there and see if it works, and if not, he'll change them.
Well, it won't, because in 6 months to a year, he won't be here with us.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, right, he'll be gone.
Holt, how say you?
Sitting on a deer stand somewhere.
Can't see
The
change.
sense of the board, are you gonna table this again, or are we gonna do a motion on it, guys? You want
Make a motion?
I can make a new motion, if I may.
Go right ahead, sir.
I make a motion that we have Mr. Roberts go up, remove the signs on the left-hand side going up Bay Hill Road, that could be state signs with the circle, with the no truck sign at the top of Bay Hill, the bottom of Bay Hill, remove any unnecessary signs, and put a sign, a new sign on the right, which would be next to the sign that has the 20% truck sign on it. Grade, and a speed limit sign of 25 miles an hour, having the sign saying, no through trucking. That would now replace the sign that we're removing.
No through trucking rather than no through commercial vehicles.
No through trucking, period. Actually saying, that's my motion, no through trucking, and also entertain the idea in the winter months with the temporary signage from October to April of suggesting an advisory sign, do not use Bay Hill Road during snowstorms, or something to that effect. That would be my motion.
Made by Paul Rochelle, do I have a second?
Right.
Second by Virgil McDonald for discussion. I'm just gonna bring the chief back in here real quick on this one. Chief, what would you consider no trucking?
What I was gonna say with this motion is, one, we could take the 25% grade sign out too, because that's a cautionary sign for trucks. If we're gonna do no trucking, there's no need to have the cautionary sign up. That's one more we can get off the road. We could put the no through trucking on the speed limit sign below it. So it's right there. You got the speed limit, posted speed limit and no through trucking right on the same sign. That would help too with visibility and identification. And then we can take out the other unnecessary signs so that we don't have so much sign clutter and confusion. So, you know, and for us, it would be any through trucks that come through that can't produce either a delivery slip or some legitimate purpose for being at a residence on that road.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be any pickup truck, little Datsun truck?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It has to be considered, no through trucking is commercial trucks. It would have to be a commercial truck. And that would be based on weight by definition.
So a commercial van could still go up and down it then?
Yes, if it was a medical delivery van or something that you mentioned earlier,
Makes sense.
something that's a normal passenger vehicle weight. By state statute, commercial vehicles are defined by weight, not by occupation at that point.
Really, you don't have many 8-ton, 10-ton, 12-ton trucks going up and down that road, I wouldn't assume. Most people that know in the area, you have more smaller commercial vehicles going up and down that road.
We've had an increase of larger trucks coming through over 10,000 pounds.
Not in the winter.
Not in the winter,
Most
but-
of your truck drivers are pretty, it's the GPS sending people down.
Town Administrator, did you get that whole motion?
We didn't say that before.
The, transcriptionist will.
Transcriptionist will.
I
Gentlemen, I
thought-
cannot read you back that motion because it's quite lengthy for Mr. Rochelle.
I can, to remove the signs on the left at the top and the bottom, and the unnecessary signs, and install one on the right-hand side, 20% grade, and no through trucking,
With the 25 mile an hour sign.
temporary sign, October through April, don't use Bay Hill.
During snowstorms, or something to that effect. That would be,
And a second by Virgil McDonald. Any further discussion?
As long as it contains that winter section in it, I can buy it.
I think it's,
Mr. McDonald?
aye,
Mr. Whitman?
yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
yes.
Mr. Holt? Mr. Wentworth, no. Both in affirmative, 4 against 1. And the reason I voted against it, I don't think it's clear enough. Gentlemen, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
real
sir.
quick. I
Yes,
don't
sir.
really, I'm not trying to discuss it anymore, but I wanted to put out, Liz, if you don't mind, I think you need to reach out to town council and find out whether or not this requires a public hearing. Because I think if you take a residential road and you post it to no through trucking or restrict the traffic flow at all, I think it requires a public hearing by law. I'm not positive, that's why I'm just suggesting that we touch base with town council to make sure that everything, last thing I want to do is find out it's not enforceable or legal once we get to court.
Sure, yep.
I think he's got a good point there.
No problem with that.
I'm glad he brought it up.
Change Stockbridge going around?
Not yet, we're waiting for New Durham.
Oh, you're waiting for New Durham, okay.
Yep, then we're gonna have one.
All right, gentlemen. Hopefully this one won't be as long, but Virgil, IT caregiver wage discussion. You asked for this to be brought up. You wanted the job description, it's there. I helped postpone it till this week, till you came back. And it gives you all what they're asked to do.
I have a question for Liz, if she can answer it. Says this office will determine and monitor the weekly performance of the caregiver on your behalf. What office?
Yeah, what are you looking at?
Heike Trust Fund caregiver.
Welfare office.
I was looking at the
That's our
job.
office.
That's our office,
Oh,
yes.
separate.
Yeah.
Okay. It says 8 hours a week on the front page, but it says 10 hours a week in the bylaws. I don't see any,
So your issue was the hourly rate.
right, I think it's too cheap.
8 hours a week, but not to exceed 10 on the first page. And the bylaws, I think it allows up to 20 hours. And the way the trust was written, or the way it was set up, the fund was set up.
Now, I just think that the reason we can't keep them and have trouble with the home health care, I mean, $12 an hour is not much for somebody going in.
Well, the last one that got done, the individual got done because of the COVID. Didn't want to have anything to do with it because of COVID. We have an individual now, which you knew, we voted for. You brought up the issue of pay, which I have to agree with you, at $12 an hour.
It's not.
Because there's no mileage included in this.
Right.
If they're doing errands, it's just a flat pay rate per hour. I feel it should at least be up to $15 an hour.
I agree with that.
The federal government wants to give all federal employees $15.
Go hire a home caregiver. I know I hired them for my father and my mother. And they were $30 an hour. If they did any type of medication or anything, it was $30 an hour. It was $20 an hour for somebody to come in and cook if we couldn't get there, or help them clean or get around stuff. That was $20 an hour.
that through an agency or just?
That was an agency.
That was an agency.
Yeah.
So this is an agency, so the agency was making part of that money along paying.
Right, but I'm just saying that I don't think the $15 an hour is,
I don't believe.
a lot of money to pay somebody for doing that.
Especially ask someone to go into someone's house and help with their daily chores.
Yep.
So if that's.
Motion that we increase her to $15 an hour for the caregiver for the Heike Fund? From 12.
And mileage?
No, we don't do mileage.
We don't do mileage, but you're saying not for this specific person, but
Oh, but-
all caregivers.
Right.
I thought we just talked about mileage.
I had stated that the $12.63, they are not paid mileage when they run the stores to do errands.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, okay. We do pay town employees mileage though when they do use their own personal vehicle. I do not know if the Heike Fund would pay mileage, because I don't know if that's the way it was set up. We have to follow certain guidelines.
Right.
And that would be something Liz would have to ask the trustees of the trust funds, because they're the ones that administer the funds. Is correct?
Yes,
So, Virgil, at this point, though, you're looking for $15 an hour. You have to have a minimum and a maximum. So if you have the same caregiver for you for 5 years, and you're gonna continue to pay that caregiver, if they've done an outstanding job, just $15 an hour for 5 years. I think this is what you were looking for a minimum, maximum, when you gave us those booklet?
you were given the chart for comparison purposes to other like-type positions. This position is not part of the minimum maximum chart because it's not a town employee, it's a trust fund employee. So,
Did you get COLA or anything?
yes, this position always gets COLA, and then, of course, as you're doing now, adjust as needed.
So you don't have to have a maximum, you could just leave it at a minimum of $15.
I'd like to make a motion to at least bring her up to the $15 an hour.
No, the position, sir.
Oh, the position, the caregivers for the Heike funds to, start at the $15 an hour.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald to pay the caregivers of the Heike Trust Fund a minimum of $15 per hour when they work. Second by Mr. Holt. Discussion.
I'm afraid I couldn't find the information that I thought I could find from my place of work. I found out nobody wanted to tell me like what an LNA is getting an L at the start. Because it was like,
Way past you.
it was like none of my business not being in that department. So that's, I was kind of, I couldn't get the information I thought I could get.
Any other discussion? I'll poll the board. Ms. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt? Yes. Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the
Thank you.
affirmative. Now, all right, gentlemen, moving on. Discipline and complaint policy. This is the third week of this, I believe. Laura went back and she fixed the wording in the one grievance, number 2 grievance, number 3 grievance. I believe the way I read it, it is still the same way it was written last week, except for those those 3 lines, second lines in each grievance. So tonight, we're asking you folks to approve the grievance policy for the town of Baltimore.
Mr. Chairman, I move the grievance policy as presented tonight with the changes made in it.
I'll second.
Motion been made by Mr. Holt to approve the grievance policy as submitted on March 8th, second by Mr. Holt, Mr. Rochelle. Discussion. Mr. Holt,
Oh, no, sir.
calling the vote, sir. Mr. Holt.
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman.
Last week, Mr. Chairman, I believe you thought we should like do away with step 2, just go right on to step 3.
No, sir. No. We had, the original one that Laura presented to us was step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
we moved 3 up to 2, did away with the original 2.
Okay,
We
I
kind of squeezed it back, because it has to go to the town administrator before it gets to the board of select.
okay, because I just personally believe, I have confidence and respect in our department heads. And, you know, I don't want them to feel that they can not discipline us, because it's going to come back to them, and nothing that they ever do to discipline is going to happen. because it just carried this thing on forever, so. That's my only comment.
So if nothing else, I'll go back to, the motion was made to approve the town discipline complaint policy. Second by, which one was it that second?
Was it Paul?
Paul. Yeah, I said Paul, by Mr. Holt. There was discussion, I asked for the vote, and we went back to discussion, so. I'll ask for the vote again, Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Mr. Wentworth, yes, votes in the affirmative. All right, next one is going to be Church Street. Highway manager would like to consider preliminary design of school of Church Street. The board of Selectmen on the briefing submitted by him from KB Partners LLC. And we still have Mr. Roberts on the phone, I think.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you, sir. So we're looking at the pages you gave us tonight.
I got a question.
Mr. McDonald has a question already, but before I go to your question, Virgil, I'd like to have Ken just present this to us. And Ken, the only question I'm gonna have for you, the first sheet I see is sheet 3. Was there a sheet 1 and 2 that we should have had?
They were just specification sheets. They were just, very, how can I say, they were just, things like, the first one was just a cover sheet. The second one was surveyor notes, abbreviations, legends.
Okay, thank you.
And then the third sheet actually started with a plan.
Floor is yours then, sir.
Okay, so you're looking at, I take it your sheets are the same as mine, looking at the intersection of 140 and School Street?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing starts out is right on the right-hand side is going to be the sidewalk that we're bringing down through there. Also, we will have a flashing light, and we're going to check with the state because we're going to have it so close to the state road, a flashing light there during school times that it would be flashing. Same thing that we have on the state road over at the high school, basically. But this will be a flashing sign, also 25 miles an hour. Will be posted throughout this because it is School Street. As you see, the sidewalk comes up mid-range, and then it crosses to the left-hand side, and that's because of it's not just the terrain, but it's the layout of that roadway. In order to get a sidewalk in there, we have to switch it midway up and put it on the opposite side. The only good thing about it is there's a good sight distance in both directions, and that brings it, if you know the road, brings it just after the staircase, walking up the road towards the school, just after the staircase, and then brings it up to that corner. And that corner brings it right straight up, and it will take a left right there, the sidewalk. And if we want to go to sheet 3, the next one over. Sheet 4. You go to sheet 4, you'll see the crosswalk. There's one crosswalk there that brings it over to the right-hand side, coming down in front of the school. Parking basically stays the same. Everything stays the same with the exception of the only crosswalk that's here is there at the end. And the reason is the confusion of having crosswalks at both ends becomes more and more of a confusion. The good thing about having a crosswalk right there, it's also a stop. So that gives the autoing public a place to stop as well as having a crosswalk there that children may be in. The mid-range crosswalk that was at the far end of this would be eliminated only because of the confusion of too many stops and goes within the roadway. Also, you'll see that School Street's been realigned, and it's been realigned in a very slow curve that goes all the way up through there, and this is more conducive for driving and plowing and everything else. Right now, if you drive it up from Route 140 up, you feel like you're on a jogging section when it comes up to that corner by Pine Street and Church Street. So we've realigned it just a little bit right there to make it a slow curve going all the way down. Then we have the sidewalk, which will stay on the right-hand side of the road. But what we're also going to do is put a bituminous curb on the opposite side. That will contain the road. It will do a lot of different things. Contain the road, the sand, be able to collect as much as possible, put it into the catch basins. And on the side that the sidewalk's on will all be curbing all the way. So we go on to sheet 5. Sheet 5, as it comes up, you can actually see that's right to the left-hand side of that sheet. You can see the jog where the curbing continues straight, but the sidewalk actually continues and comes behind the telephone poles. So it's actually going to step back behind the telephone poles, and that's continued all the way down to the intersection of Main Street and School Street. Also on the right-hand side of this street, coming in, would also be a flashing light school zone, and would be on when school, that half an hour before and a half an hour after, while people are coming in and all that congestion is going on, and also posted at 25 miles an hour. Just to reiterate something else, we see as a water line down the middle. Courtney is on the line. She is here tonight with us. I know her family has COVID. I'm sorry to hear about that, but she's on the line. She can answer any of your water issues that you may bring up as we're going through this. So you see there's a couple more catch basins been added in it also, recommended by the engineer in order to control the water system and control any of the sediment that may try getting away on us. So we go to the next section, which is section 6. Section 6 is actually the intersection. Now that's completely rebuilt in the intersection. We're getting rid of the diamond. It's going to be easier for us to maintain. It's also easier for the children to cross because now we're having a sidewalk that's going to go all the way to Route 140. So that whole intersection of the day, and that's basically the curve that sets us right up onto Pine Street, and then for the buses to come around the corner and unload in front of the school. Now, we took the sidewalk out that would be on going up the road from School Street, up Church Street. The sidewalk is no longer going to be on the right-hand side of the road. It's going to be on the left. And the reason is the left is going to continue all the way out to Main Street. And I'll tell you the reason why we had to do it this way is when you get up, you can actually see the jog part way up, right where it says Church Street. You can see that driveway right there. You can see where that steps back into where the parking lanes are. The reason it steps back in is there's a stone wall right there. In order to keep Church Street straight, and I know at one time we discussed putting parking on the left-hand side of Church Street coming in from Main Street, but it would have left one big jog right here in the middle. They would be a very significant turn in and out for the alignment of the roadway. So for better traffic flow and alignment and visibility, the parking was left on the same side even though we're going to rebuild the sidewalks. So again, that continues right straight down through till we go to sheet 7, where it empties out onto the State Road, Main Street. We added 2 more parking spaces. It was right in where the old Village Video used to be because we lost 2 parking spaces at the crosswalk for sight distance right across from the church. So we did put a crosswalk for people to come down and go straight across to the church right there. So that's kind of the layout that's there. I think it's a good layout. We've been over it very thoroughly, myself and the water department with the engineer. These are preliminaries, and that's kind of where we stand.
So Ken, I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Back on sheet 5, once we leave the school, we're headed out 140 towards the veterinary clinic. We had talked about possibly either moving the road over to accommodate for the sidewalk or put the sidewalk on the right-hand side going towards the school so you could leave this, so there'd be still some parking by the veterinary clinic. The way I'm looking by the end of the road here, does that still allow for some off-street parking by the vet's office?
We could add that in either, as you can see, where we couldn't do it on the crosswalk side. We could do it across the street, which would be on the Wayne's transmission side, on the right-hand side, right.
Yeah, because it's nice to get
pulling into the street on the right-hand side.
I mean,
on the left-hand side, it'd be,
no, go ahead.
on the left-hand side, it'd be very difficult because of the sidewalk. We had to set it back and leave that green space in there.
Right.
And that green space isn't big enough to put parking.
Right. I think it's great, the parking lot, the sidewalk's all on one side. It didn't matter to me one way or the other. I knew we had more of a right-of-way on the right-hand side going down towards the school. But if we just had some off-street parking there, because we've always had parking there and it's always been kind of tight. But I I think it should be a little bit wider there with some parking spots like we're doing at Church Street. One for the post office, one for the vet's office. Because as the area gets more developed, that road's gonna get busier, especially with the through traffic, through the post office, to the plaza, to the laundromat. But I don't know.
Just to mention, there is something being utilized. It's not a driveway. I'm not sure how you would want to define it, but there is vehicles that are going in and out of that building that's right on the corner, almost where you see the drainage system right there, where it shows the two catch basins in the ground. There's almost like a driveway that's going in and out right there. That's question mark in front of the funeral home. There's actually a couple of parking spaces that are already there in the front of that, which is on town property. So you're talking about between maybe that possibility of that driveway, so-called, to the end of, within a safe distance of the intersection of Main Street, to put some off-street parking right there?
Just some parallel parking to the road, I would
Yeah.
think, yes, we could.
We might get 3 of them in there.
I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, but you can ask them, but I'm only one member of the board. It's really up to the consensus of the board what they'd like to see.
Yeah, I think the more parking we can get, the better off we're gonna be. Especially with Main Street.
Is it a consensus to put it on the right is kind of what I need, I guess, to tell the engineer.
Mr. Whitman?
I'm still trying to absorb it.
Mr. Lachelle?
Well, yeah, the more parking, the better, obviously.
Well, I would agree with that.
I agree with Ruben, if we can definitely over by the, veterinary clinic.
To the funeral home and everything. Open that right
Yeah,
up.
open that up a little bit more, for off-street parking there would make a lot of sense.
Mr. Holt?
Yeah, I think it's something we should look at. The more parking, the better.
Other than that, does the plans look suitable to you?
Well, I got a question, Kenny, on sheet 3, where we come out on 140, we can't slide that road over and keep the sidewalk right on one side and have the crossing down at the end?
Number 3.
Yeah, I know.
Where we've got.
Were you thinking of doing that, Virgil? We have where that sidewalk comes down through there, there's no room on the opposite side from Church Street, which would be on the Pine Street side. And once we reach that point of where we put the mid-range crossing, as you can see, there's a couple of drawings in there. That's actually a staircase that comes down.
Well,
And also, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying, but we can't slide that road over a little bit? You know, slide it over where the sidewalk is and put the sidewalk on the other side so it stays the same?
No, because what happens is the reason we had to stop the sidewalk there is if they park a vehicle in front of that house where they've been parking for years,
Yeah.
that vehicle comes right out to the edge of almost to the edge of the existing road today.
But that is a
So
right of way in there, is not?
I don't disagree, but we're trying to make the least amount of impact to residents as possible.
I just don't like the crosswalk right in front of the guy's house. And, you know, to me, sidewalks should stay on the same without having to cross back and forth.
I don't disagree. It was the best case scenario for what we had here.
Yeah, that's a tough area.
Unique.
It is.
And Ken, just one other question I had for you back on 4, because I talked to you about this before. Across from the schools itself, from the island, the off-street angle parking, there is no way to get that pushed in a little bit further there?
No, because you can see where the property line is.
Mhm.
That's that dotted line. We're actually
Yes, sir.
over it a little bit on the sidewalk itself, down through there, but that's pre-existing.
All right.
So we're not going to change what's pre-existing. And the only place it could possibly go back, but that's why you did that slow curve all the way down through, to
Yes, sir.
just make a better alignment through the whole thing. Like, it would be a better flow what it is now than what it was.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Paul?
Ken?
Yes.
Mr. Paul, the the bus loop, well, School Street, right in front of the school, in that center island, is that gonna be a lot smaller than what's there now?
No, it stays existing just the way it is today.
It's gonna stay, that is gonna stay the same? Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't change, and where the
It
red
looks
line
smaller.
stops, that's where we stop. We don't go up
Okay.
into the bus loop.
Okay, it just looked like it was smaller to me. Thank you.
Any other questions for, Ken? Do you have any, is Courtney, are you there on the line?
Good evening.
Good evening, Courtney. Is there anything on the plans you'd like to say before I have the board ask you questions?
No, for the most part, the water line's pretty simple. We're gonna try to stay 5 feet from the existing one, abandoned as is. It should be a pretty straightforward project.
You have no concerns with the way the engineers laid out the lines and everything?
No, once we get a hard number, we're gonna, reach out to EJ Prescott to see if we can, like we've spoken before, see about getting our costs for certain materials like the pipe and stage it on site, to cut some of the costs for the project. But, note working with Mike, he was very aware of what our needs are and what the specifications we need are. So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, great. Gentlemen, any questions for Courtney?
Yes. Why aren't we running the line the full length down, School Street?
Because that is an 8-inch existing right now. It decreases in size right around Pine Street. It goes a 6-inch to Pine Street, and then somewhere it tapers off to a 4-inch at Church Street. We've made repairs down on that street before for main to stop services. And we've been able to actually look at the pipe. It's ductile iron, and it doesn't appear to have any issues that we can see from the outside looking in. I think the majority of our issues down there are coming from the cast iron main. Between the age, the material, and the size, that's what's kind of working against us up in that area.
So the rest of School Street, that pipe is fine, we don't have to replace it at all? There's no
That would be
breaks that
from-
were repaired, there's no patches in it?
Nope, the repairs that we did were from the corporation stop that was right at the main to the curb box itself.
Yeah,
It appears to be in good condition. Like I said, it looks to me like the majority of our issues are the flow issues with that 4-inch cast iron main.
yeah, I just hate to do water mains, do the road over, and then find out we've got a problem in the last couple hundred feet here.
Well, we can definitely look into that. We were trying to cut down the costs so we can get the project completed. And that appeared to be the best material, but we can look into doing the rest of that area. There are a lot of services on that section of road, so and we'd have to go into 140 obviously to do a new tap down there for the new main valve at 140 in School Street.
Yes.
So gentlemen, what's your pleasure? We asked Mr. Robbins to look into the off-street parking, a little bit on the right-hand side coming in from Church Street. And do you want Courtney to continue to look at possibly see what it would cost to fix the main all the way down, so it's a brand-new water main from 140 all the way up to Main Street?
Yeah.
I say, we gotta do while
May
we're
as well.
down 140.
I just have a question on that water main.
Yes, Mr. Holt.
What size is that existing one now? Is that 8-inch?
The
Yep.
one from coming in from 140 is 8-inch up to Pine Street. Is that correct, Courtney?
Change it to
Yes, that's
6.
correct. Yep.
And then it goes down.
Okay. Now, how old is that water main in there?
I don't have any data on how old the school to 140 side is, but the area that we were focusing on is I don't even have a date on it. I mean, it's 4-inch cast, so it's past its 30-year life expectancy anyway, and then some.
Any other questions for Courtney? Being none, Courtney, thank you very much. If you could look also just into extending that from 140 New Line all the way up through to Main Street. For the board, that would be great.
Yep, no problem.
All right, thank you. Have a good night. Hope you feel better.
Thank you, too.
Mr. Roberts, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I could just get a consensus of the board to, from that catch basin that we were talking about at the end where this parking is, because we're trying to get Mike to get a final plan so we can go to public hearing.
Okay.
To put in as many parking spaces as possible on that right-hand side of the road,
Yes, sir.
down to the funeral home.
Yes, sir.
So if that's a consensus of the board, I'll have him draw it into the final plan, and that's what will be coming to you next to set public hearing date.
Sounds good, sir. Yes, it is a consensus of the board. Mr. Holt?
Sounds great.
Mr. Michelle? Yes. Mr. McDonald, Ms. Warren? Yes, you got the consensus of the board.
Okay, I'll talk to Mike in the morning and have that changed and have it ready to go in final plans next.
All right, don't go any. Mr. McDonald has a question.
Hey, Jim. A couple years ago, we went through with the residents of Lily Pond Road. Got it set up, we sent it out, had it surveyed and everything. And we moved on to another project. When we told those people we were getting ready to do their road.
Well, the last 2 years, I know we've talked about Church Street, School Street, having to get that done because of the time frame we got. Lily Pond Road, I know we went out, we had a survey. It was more to the point of survey to see where the ditch lines were and the property lines were, but I never heard we were gonna pave it.
We're gonna pay, we're gonna fix the road. And that's what we told the residents.
That can be done by the highway department, going in and grading it and ditching it and everything else, correct?
Not really, it needs drainage and stuff, yeah. When we talked to Kenny about it, needed the drainage and stuff, and blasting and stuff, to do the road right, because it just keeps wiping out.
All right, so then that will have to be brought up through, and I would say Mr. Roberts is, with his retirement coming soon here.
Oh, we just put that off.
So that we're putting back off, that'll be something for the new.
Kenny's retirement off.
Right.
Put him back on that road.
Unfortunately,
If I may, Mr. Chair?
yes, sir, go ahead.
Just let you know, I have talked to the new Public Works Director, and I have both surveys for Roberts Cove Road, and I also have the one for Lily Pond Road. And the reason I haven't presented those in the PDF form is because I don't know if we're gonna have enough money to do the one we've got. So, and I've explained that to him. So, he will be the one that would be putting the PDF together for which road you decide next, to finish Roberts Cove or do Lily Pond Road.
Okay, sir, thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Anything else, Mr. McDonald?
No.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roberts, have a good evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Selectmen's reports, Mr. Holt.
I'm open.
Mr. Michelle.
Not at this time.
Nothing.
Not till, Thursday.
Okay, I have one thing, it really doesn't have to do with town business. But last week, as you all know, Tuesday came in, we had a heck of a windstorm. Thursday came back, certain parts of Main Street to West Alton lost the power again. I want to commend the New Hampshire Electric Co-op and their crews that they brought in for us. Because one is they're a union shop. Over 35 mile an hour sustained winds, they do not have to require to go back up in that bucket. Tuesday night, talking to some of the gentlemen down there, they were supposed to go into dinner at 8 o'clock. They decided to forego their dinner for 2 more hours because they felt they had 2 hours left to get the power back on to part of Main Street and the West Alton. They forego their dinner to take it home. They worked 2 more hours in that wind and that cold. Now, the highway department crew knows what it's like to work out in some of those cold conditions. But they're not in a bucket swaying in 30 mile an hour winds. And I noticed on certain social media sites, they were beaten up pretty bad. They did a temporary hookup, so we had backfeed all the way down Main Street back to the Village Store, because most folks don't know it, but Main Street is fed up to Village Store, and then it goes up over Wolfboro Hill Road, feeds all the 28A. From Village Store down to the bay, over to JP China and all that, that's how we're fed in. They worked diligent through the night, and they could have gone home. They didn't, because at 8 o'clock, they were told to have your dinner and go home because the winds were getting too bad. They decided to stay and get the power back on for the community. Thursday came, we were notified the businesses that we'd lose power again because they had to finish tying the line back in the way it was supposed to be because they ran, I call it a jump line. They said 4 to 5 hours, ended up being closer to 6. But they still worked through the night to get the power back on. I just wanted to give them recognition for what they went through in that snowstorm, getting us power back on, because some folks in town didn't think they worked hard enough, but I wanted to let them know. For me personally, as a selectman, we all had heat Tuesday night, and we had heat back on Thursday night, and I want to thank them and recognize them for that. That's all I have to say.
Pretty lucky with the electric department's crews that we have in this town. We've been real lucky over the years.
And we're very
They've done
fortunate.
exceptionally well.
And we were very fortunate, so they got private crews to come in now. But I just think they need to be recognized for what they did.
They do.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have wanted to have been out there myself.
yeah, you're right, Mr. Chairman. I know, I lived there on that corner now, and they were there all night, the night before, and getting temporary power in. And I was out there talking with them, you know, some of the guys. And,
They worked right around the clock.
when they have to, they work real hard.
Yeah, they do.
Bad conditions and all.
That's all I have, gentlemen. I guess I'll turn it over to the town administrator at this time for her report.
I just have one item, it has to do with Atlantic Broadband and the offer from the town of Guilford. Have you given any thought to that?
If I knew what it would accomplish or enhance the contract better, maybe I would. Our last one, like you said, was $6,500 in legal fees, to have that attorney look at what we already had and to rewrite the new one. So I guess I'm not seeing where there's any savings here or how this would enhance Alton or its residents. I haven't been led to believe anything, that's all. All I've been saying, well, if we all join together, it's going to benefit all of us. And I don't see what the benefit is. I guess that's what I'm trying to see.
That's all right, if you don't want to do it, that's fine.
Well, that's my opinion.
I want to
not-
get back
not
to
the whole
him.
board.
Well, I thought we put an ad out for people to, you know, give us some input.
Give some
And
input.
we've got 2 here tonight.
We got 2.
And, I don't know, I think, I can't see why we can't handle this ourselves unless we got a serious issue with the company that we want to get addressed. Do we?
So,
I don't know.
Well, let me bring Virgil back up to speak, because he just asked what's this about. The Lenny Broadband contract is coming up for several area towns.
Right.
Mr. Dunn from the town of Guilford has reached out to all these area towns and saying, join our group. If you all join our group, it can save us costs. Last time we did a contract with Lenny Broadband, when they bought out MetroCast, we paid $6,500 to have the lawyer look at the contract that was in place, write it up again, sign it. You were here then, I don't think I was. So now that the contract has come up for renewal, Mr. Dunn has reached out from the town of Guilford saying, how about 5 or 6 of us towns go in so we have a better contract? I asked last week, what would the cost be or estimated cost? He has no idea. And I guess when I'm looking out of it, what are we going to get out of that bang for a dollar? Is it going to be around $6,500 again from the lawyer to rewrite the contract? Because actually Lenny Broadband is going to write the contract.
Right. And they just look at it.
They're going to review it, and that's what we paid the $6,500 for last time, is for them to read through it.
well, there were also some negotiations that went on back and forth to finalize it. It is a specialized type of
But nothing.
it's a very serious contract. You have to find everything.
Well, yeah, you read that.
I,
The Philadelphia lawyer.
the board, you make your own decision, but I recommend that, an attorney who specializes in this sort of thing be hired.
Well, no, I agree with you, we should have that
Okay.
attorney, but you said that Mr. Guilford uses the same attorney, the town,
Yeah.
all those towns use the same attorney.
Right, yep,
So-
even here, we have.
I know, that same
Yep.
attorney, yeah.
She's
I
very-
have no problem as you put a $6,500 limit on it up to that point. If it's gonna be more than that, you need to come back to the board and let us know. Not to pay any more than what we did, what was it, 4 years ago? 5 years ago?
2016.
2016, 5 years ago.
If we don't,
Oh, we're still gonna have to do a contract.
It's your decision, but there's gotta be a new contract with negotiations, and an attorney needs to be involved, and our regular attorney does not handle that sort of thing. So it has to be someone who specializes in corporate contracts.
Gonna get the franchise one way or the other, you can't stop it.
no.
And if we do nothing, if we don't even sign a contract,
They still get the franchise.
They're still gonna have
and
the
you don't
franchise.
get
they just keep
What?
operating under the old contract.
Well, they keep,
Correct.
they just operate, they go to court and get a franchise automatic.
Well, I think the check would stop too, the franchise fee. If you don't have a contract for a franchise, you're not gonna get the franchise fee.
Right. We don't get paid.
Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Do it, but you ain't gonna need a lawyer on it.
Get a lawyer for no more than $6,500?
Do we join the group? That's the question me and asked, like, do we join the group?
That's my recommendation.
Well,
Town administrator's making a recommendation, you can say, join the group, not to expend over $6,500 in legal fees with the, I guess you could almost call it a consortium. And once it goes up to 65, the town administrator's gotta come back to get more, another approval for
I
expenditures.
disagree. I don't think we should join a group.
Well, the problem is,
Mixing with these other towns on employment and all the different things, it seems like we're always left hanging. I think we should just do it.
this could end up being $12,000.
Well, there's nothing saying that it couldn't be $8,000 to $9,000 when we go out on our own, because that $6,500 was from 5 years ago.
But ain't nothing to say that even if we go into them, it could be that much.
Right.
And it was the same contract, it was just a new owner. And it probably will be more than $6,500 if you go out on your own. And I would recommend the same attorney if you want to go out on your own. She's the top in the field.
Which pleasure,
So either way, we have to do something.
either way, we have to do something. We can either do it with other communities, which basically would limit it down that we'd all have the same contract. Basically, I guess that's what they're trying to do, is have basically the same contract for all. At least that's what I assume, because I can't believe Guilford would want to have anything better than what Alton is getting for its customers, nor would I think, what was the other towns that were involved?
Well, Franklin just signed up. They just joined. I got an email last week about that. There were, I don't know, a dozen or so.
And I can't believe Franklin would want to have anything less than what Alton residents were gonna get for their franchise contract either. I have no problem in going with it. The only problem I have is that nobody had any idea of cost.
Right, and that question was
That's
asked.
why I don't mind going up to the $7,000 threshold, and after that, the town administrator have to come back and ask us, say, it's gone over your threshold of $7,000, we need $3,000 more. Because I know it's gonna go up, because it's gotta go up from 5 years ago. Most lawyers have increased their fees from 5 years ago.
So we gotta more or less decide what we wanna start out with a bottom figure.
Well, start out with a bottom figure, or if you wanna join the group, or do it on your own. That's the question of tonight. You wanna join?
Join the group, we don't know how much we're gonna save. Or do we?
There's no financial information
No financial information. We don't know if we're saving anything by joining the
at this
group.
time. No, not yet.
No, and we don't know if it's gonna cost us outrageous if we go on our own.
And you don't know.
And we have to make a decision now, or
No, just, I keep bringing it forward, looking for,
I don't think we should make a decision. I think we need to find out what it would cost us to join the group, find out what it's gonna cost, definitely, and then find out what it would be if we went on our own.
okay, so I've already asked the town of Guilford that, and he has no idea. You have a copy of the.
How can nobody not know?
Not all of the municipalities have joined yet. I don't know,
The ones who have, why can't they tell us?
Well, they don't have a cost yet. They're just making their decisions if they want to do it as a coalition group at a lower rate than if they were on their own.
Coalition group, they're going along with any figure.
So everybody, all the towns get paid the same when we could do it on our own and maybe get more.
Yep. You never know. It's a hit and miss. Yep.
If you don't want to do it, that's fine. I just need to know.
If she wants to know.
Oh, no, I understand, it's not you. And I'm just saying, if they're asking us to join something, we have no idea what it's gonna cost us.
Well, I don't know how these other towns can join something without knowing
Well, that's what I mean.
what kind of figure there is.
There's gotta be somebody out there that knows a figure.
I just worry.
Or is anybody out
Joining
there?
something like this, and there's 6 towns and only 3 jump in, then the figure's so damn high that.
So at this point, the group hasn't been started, so they haven't even entertained the idea of hiring a lawyer firm, correct, at this point anyways, correct?
Yes, it's that
Okay,
law
so
firm.
this firm must at least set something down, I would think,
Donahue, Tucker, and Giandella.
to Mr. Dunn or the town of Guilford, saying the more you get to go, this is what the hourly rate will be to try to formulate this contract, or we will do this contract for a certain amount.
Gotta be an incentive.
I mean, I'm sure the more you have, the more power you have,
Of course.
less it should be less
Cost.
it should be more cost effective.
Mm-hmm. But somebody has to have a figure.
But it's the first time, it's like the Portsmouth one on the, House bill and the Senate bill on the education. They were trying to get more towns to join that consortium. They based it off of the, valuations of each town, of how much each town would pay. At least we knew an idea of how much each town was gonna pay a lobbyist to go to Concord for us. So I guess at this point, I would assume if we got 10 towns involved, the attorney's office could at least give the consortium an idea of what the cost would be per town to negotiate to a point. Or I'm selling it. Guess that's what I'm looking for. I go back to the old ad in factory when Nancy Pelosi says, no, matter what's in it, you gotta sign it to find out what's in it. And I don't wanna join it to find out how much it's gonna cost.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, I'm looking for an idea of what they feel, or the lawyers obviously give an idea and say, well, we can represent all of you for $5,000 to get this negotiated.
So I could reach out to the attorney at the law firm and find out from her, and I'm also gonna ask Laura to have her assistant dig up the old MetroCast expenses from the last contract, which would have been before 2016, like 5 or 10 years
That sounds
before.
like a great idea.
And then you can add on a rate of inflation, and then
Thank you.
you'll know a ballpark.
Well, again, how many towns are there involved, Bob?
Well, right now, there's only about 5, she said. There could be up to 10 or 12.
Well, I think there's more like a dozen that have already joined, and there were others that were
She thinks up to a dozen.
in the whole region.
Whole region.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if they get up to a dozen, what would the figure be? They should be able to give you some kind of a figure then.
Hopefully.
Just an idea.
That's what she's gonna reach out for.
That's what I'm asking. I mean, there's no way we can say, yes, let's join,
Give an
when we don't know what we're joining.
financially.
Well,
Financially, we have no idea.
Financially, yeah.
That's what I mean. Financially, we do not have any idea. It'd be nice to know, for this board to be, in my opinion, to go move forward with it, to know what the cost would be, financial cost.
Or an idea.
Anything else, ma'am?
Nope.
Okay. So we're moving on to February 1st, 2021, non-public minutes. Virgil, I held off on these because you were not here at the last meeting. You had a question.
Yeah, I wasn't here on February 1st.
Right. The reason on February 1st, the reason you were brought into that was because the meeting before that, there was a question on it. And so I had to bring it back to the board, stating how an investigation had to happen. And I talked to you about where you had to go.
Oh, on that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you were in on that. That's why your name was brought up on that.
Okay.
Okay? But I did not vote to have them approved last week to keep number 1 and number 2 at that time. I'm not to divulge, because you were not here yet, you had a question on it. I wanted to make sure you were satisfied.
No, I'm satisfied, I understand it.
So gentlemen, I need a motion on February 1st, 2021, non-public session, not to divulge number 1 and number 2.
So moved.
Motion made by Phil Whitman to approve the February 1st, 2021, non-public session, not to divulge item 1 and item 2. Second?
Second.
So, do I have any other discussion on it? Being none, I'll poll the board. Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt? Mr. Wentworth, yes. Mr. McDonald?
Same.
Four in favor, 1 abstention. Mr. McDonald is the abstention. He was not here at the meeting. Gentlemen, moving on to February 22nd, 2021, regular minutes. And you gentlemen are good with those minutes. After reviewing them, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the February 22nd, 2021 minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McDonald to approve the February 22nd, 2021 minutes, second by Mr. Whitman. Discussion. Being none, I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Same.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative, 4-4, 1 abstention. Mr. Rochelle abstains. Consent agenda. Gentlemen, underneath the consent agenda, item 2 will be post. Oh, I'm going to allow the town administrator to speak on that one. Go ahead,
Yes,
ma'am.
I was going to recommend that, or ask the board to approve only item number 1, and number 2 would be tabled until the next meeting.
Gentlemen, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 1, as presented on March 8, 2021, and table item 2.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Wentworth to approve the consent agenda as submitted March 8, 2021, approving item 1 and table number 2 until next week, second by Mr. McDonald. Discussion. Being none, I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote to the affirmative. This time, gentlemen, there is no discretionary action on request for appointments. And at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into non-public session underneath RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2, D and E.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Made by Mr. Holt to go into non-public session underneath RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2, D and E. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes affirmative. Folks, we are in non-public session at 8:05. We will return to public session afterwards. Hey, folks, we're back out of non-public session 8:20, and I would entertain a motion again not to divulge the non-public session minutes underneath B.
Make a motion not to divulge non-public session.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald to not to divulge the minutes from non-public session under B, second by Mr. Whitman. And B, if anybody wants to know, is render a proposed action ineffective. Second by Mr. Whitman, any discussion? Being none, I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth? Yes, votes in affirmative. If there's nothing else, gentlemen, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:21 and then see everybody at the election polls tomorrow.
Second.
Motion made to adjourn at 8:21, second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? Hold the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt? Yes. Wentworth, yes. Votes in affirmative. Folks, we are adjourned at 8:21. Thank you. We'll see you next week.